Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. I'm glad to be back with you.
I'm not sure you're happy to be back with me, though.
As I said before, I'm breaking down these Power 5 conferences division by division. Last week, I did the two divisions in the ACC. Today, I'm going to start breaking down the SEC, and I'm going to start with the SEC West. When anybody thinks of the SEC West, the same way when they think about the Atlantic Division and the ACC, they think about one team. In the ACC, it's Clemson. In the SEC West, it's Alabama. But let's talk about some other teams first. Start with the ones who aren't going to win it as usual.
Which is most of them.
Ole Miss. Where do I begin with Ole Miss? They won't be relevant for another 10 years. Hugh Freeze buried them so deep in sanctions that they need a straw to get air. But, I mean, listen, the guy, not only did he bury them by buying players, but he goes down to Florida on recruiting trips, buys hookers with Ole Miss money, calls and sets up the appointments to meet with the hookers on the Ole Miss cell phone. But I can't think of anything dumber for a Power 5 football program head coach to do than what Hugh Freeze did. He may get hired again one day, but man, what a bad look.
Probably by Nick Saban.
Ole Miss, not doing anything. Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State actually had some success. When I say some, I mean some, not a lot of success with Dan Mullen. Of course, Dan Mullen hauled butt down to Florida to take over that Gator job. And this guy comes in. I want to say he's the former offensive coordinator for Penn State. Sounds like a pretty good hire to me.
But Mississippi State doesn't have anybody named Saquon Barkley.
Who knows what's going to happen with this guy? As far as I know, he's never been a head coach in a Power 5. Well, I know he's not in the Power 5. He hasn't been. But we'll see what happens here. He's got a pretty good quarterback in Nick Fitzgerald. The rest of the team, I probably couldn't name two players other than Nick Fitzgerald on that team. And the problem is they play in the West, and they've got to compete with Alabama, Auburn, mainly Alabama and Auburn. If he does do anything, I don't think it's going to be for at least 2 or 3 more years.
Or ever.
So, sorry, Mississippi State, not good enough. Arkansas. Arkansas may have just become my new favorite team in the West. Why do you say that? Well, because I'm a big fan of Chad Morris. He recruited Deshaun Watson to Clemson before he got the job at head coaching job at SMU, and of course now is at Arkansas. Now, listen, I don't expect anything out of them for 2, 3, 4 years even. I can't think of 2 completely different head coaches in America than Chad Morris and Brett Bielema. I don't know if Brett Bielema and Les Miles suffer from the same type of dementia, where they haven't figured out that in 2018 college football, you have to spread it out some and throw the ball, and you can't just pick up 2 or 3 yard run plays and run that 4 times in a row. So it doesn't surprise me that Brett Bielema's gone. It does surprise me that they went the complete 180 and picked up Chad Morris. And like I said, Chad Morris, great recruiter, great offensive mind. He still needs 3 or 4 years to get going there. So I don't expect Arkansas to be doing anything in the West this year. Texas A&M. Well, this is kind of surprising. 2 former ACC coaches, one a head coach, one an offensive coordinator, now coaching in the same division in the West, SEC West.
Go ahead. Tell me again how terrible the ACC is.
Now, I used to like Jimbo Fisher. And he's got some splaining to do. SEC Media Days are going to be a trip. I can't wait to watch that. He spent the past 3 or 4 years dogging the SEC, talking about how the ACC was better than the SEC. And then at the first sign of trouble in Florida State, where'd he run off to? The SEC. I got news for you, Jimbo Fisher. If you couldn't compete with Dabo Swinney and Clemson, you're not going to compete with Nick Saban and Alabama in the same division, no less. And this year, you've got to play both of them. You got to play Clemson week 2, and of course, you got to play Alabama because you're in the West. Chalk that up as 2 big fat L's to start out your honeymoon period at Texas A&M. He makes more money than the guy signed a deal, right? What? 10 years, $90 million. He makes like $1,000 a minute. When the guy takes a dump in the morning, he comes out after he flushes the toilet $7,000, $8,000 richer than he was. The problem is he can't buy a personality with that money. He's got the personality of a tree, and I can't wait to see him hopefully fail miserably there. But in all seriousness, He is a pretty good football coach. He will get Texas A&M better than they have been, and it's still going to take him a couple of years to get the kind of talent that he recruits in there. So Texas A&M, sorry, this is not your year. LSU. I don't know what they are doing down there. I can't figure it out.
If any of you can figure it out, please let me know in the comment section.
I mean, say what you want to about Les Miles having a 1959 offense, which he did. They warned him, to get an offense in there, or else he did go out and hire that Matt Canada guy. They gave him 1 year or whatever it was. Anyway, LSU had some of the most talent in the country. Inexplicable losses year after year after year. Got to be one of the biggest, brand names, greatest stadiums, most loyal fan bases. Got to be a destination job for just about any big name coach in the country. And who'd you get? Ed Orgeron?
Go Tigers! Go Tigers!
Are you kidding me? When I started thinking about LSU, I'm not even an LSU fan, but the veins in my head start to tighten, and I feel like they're going to pop, and I'm just going to have a coronary right here on camera. It's unbelievable what they've done there. Oh, I don't feel sorry for them because I don't feel sorry for any team in the SEC, but if there's one team fan base out there that I feel a tiny bit sorry for, it's LSU with Ed Orgeron. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, LSU not doing anything sorry. Mama mouth is not going to win you nothing. Next on the list, Auburn. Yeah, the same Auburn team that has lost 4 straight to Clemson. I think Clemson and Auburn have played each other 4 out of the past 5 years. Clemson, of course, won all 4 of those. Or maybe they're 4-1. I don't know, but we've won 4 in a row. I do know that. Gus Malzahn has no chance at beating Clemson. And if he has no chance at beating Clemson, the chances that he wins the SEC is very, very slim whenever you enter Georgia and Alabama into that conversation. Now, would it be like the biggest shock in the world if Auburn was able to put together some kind of magical season and win the West and then possibly win the SEC and get to the playoffs?
Huh? Yeah, actually, it would be.
No, that's not completely out of the question. I'm not saying that. I think they are the second best team in the West and probably the third best team in the SEC. But if that were to happen, if they were to beat Alabama in the West and then go out and take care of Georgia and Atlanta.
That's a stretch.
And get to the playoffs, they're not beating somebody like Clemson. And they're not going to beat somebody like probably even Ohio State, as much as I hate to say it. So I don't take Auburn seriously past week 10 ever. And I never trust a fan base that toilet papers their own trees.
Don't use all of your toilet paper. You're probably going to need some to dry your tears.
Shouldn't you be throwing toilet paper on the opponent's trees? That's like saying, oh, I won a match at Fortnite. I'm going to toilet paper my own house now. And last but not least, Alabama. Roll Tide roll is what they like to say over there, and they have been rolling, tiding, rolling, or whatever the hell you want to say. They are the favorites to win every year until anybody can prove them any different, and why would I sit here and think that they are not the shoe-in to win that division and eventually the SEC? Could they lose to somebody like Georgia or Alabama? Of course they could.
Or Auburn even.
I'm not believing it until somebody shows me different, but, it is what it is. They've dominated the college football scene since Nick Saban's been there for the most part, and they show no signs of slowing down. Clemson or Georgia might have something to say about that, and I would actually like to see Alabama again. People say, "Well, Clemson doesn't want to see Alabama again." Well, you know what? If you believe in number patterns, okay.
If you believe 2 + 2 = 5 sometimes.
Win, loss, win. Or loss, win, loss, however you want to look at it from either side, we're due to win the next one. So if I want to look at it that way, I don't care. I don't care who we play as long as we get there. Alabama, Nick Saban, clearly the best team in the SEC and maybe the best team in the country. No denying that. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete, checking out.